Thank you so much for coming all the way and joining this conversation. I'm so glad I get to sit with you because I think the role that you're playing in our society is very, very, very important, especially the Rwandan society. I would like you to share with us what you do and a little bit of how you found yourself in this journey.
Okay. So thank you very much for inviting me and including me in this discussion. I really appreciate the topic. It's an original one and also a fun one, I believe. So I'm a clinical psychologist and I work at a private mental health clinic here in Kigali that offers mental health services to people who come to see us. And so what we do is we support people who are going through usually a difficult time with something that they might have been struggled with for some time and maybe had found some ways to go about it or around it. But at one point it wasn't enough and they come to see specialists. And so we're amongst those who are able to provide those services. What we do means that we also are there to listen, but also there's no judgment and there's no stigma. And we kind of have the experience of knowing, okay, this is what it is. And these are different ways to get out of this position that the person is. So there's no hopelessness in our profession.
So tell me, how you as Freya, found yourself interested in mental health.
Okay.
Yeah, that means you're gonna tell us a little bit about your background.
I think I was always fascinated and intrigued about the difference. People can go through the same thing and that they will react differently. They will be motivated differently, specifically, and in doing difficult things or doing things that put them at risk. And that richness, I was really intrigued and interested in knowing, what is it? It's so invisible, but it's there. That world exists in all of us, actually.
Yeah.
And so I was intrigued by that. I did study something else before. Before it was more in marketing and international relationship. But if you think about it, marketing is also the psychology of the customer.
Mm-hmm.
And then later on, I did another bachelor's, but specifically in psychology, and then a master's in psychology as well. But since I was young, when I was old enough to try to think what would I like to study, I had a penchant and a passion for psychology.
In my generation, we are young and we're trying to figure things out, and we're dealing with a lot of things that we don't understand. We don't understand what anxiety is. We don't understand what a burnout is, what it feels like. We don't understand what depression is. And even when we try to understand it, we are faced with stigma. We are faced with, okay, if you're dealing with this, then you're crazy mentally. So you're supposed to be treated like a crazy person. And artists in general, they already look like they are living in a different world. So now facing mental health challenges puts them in a different position that is harder because it's another isolation. So I thought about you because I would love to learn more about mental health and then share it with the audience, artists and entrepreneurs, people who are most of the time self-conscious and who are in their heads a lot of time, and hopefully get tools and be equipped for us to know how to deal with these challenges and to know when to seek help and what it is. So I think we can start with your experience with mental health around creatives.
Let me start where you started in this conversation about stigma, because I think when we think about mental health, usually what people think about is, as you said, the crazy person. And the crazy person, the one that runs in the street naked. This is, the popular concept. So you don't want to be associated with that.
Yeah, definitely.
So, but actually there's a huge spectrum, a huge variation between that extreme of, getting to that extreme and all the different steps in between. You don't need to go to that extreme to feel that you're no longer functioning like you would like to function, that you feel overwhelmed, that there's a sadness that is, now around you more than 2 weeks, and you like on that low, or that you feel panic, that you can't explain, but it's there, and it is also not helping you work and function like you'd like to, or you're now retreating from people, you no longer want to see them. So these are all signs of you're not feeling well. And it's not a weakness. It's not a sign that you're going to go crazy, like that example. It's just that you're not feeling well. And there are ways that you can already treat yourself, or make sure that, now I'm feeling a bit tired. Maybe there's something in what I do that is taking a lot of energy. How can I need to be aware of that. And then how can I then take care of myself to make sure that that energy doesn't, go away from me completely, so that I don't burn out. And there are different things that you can put in your routine, and make sure that you sleep enough, make sure that you eat well, make sure that maybe you have a set of friends, of good people that you can already confide in and say, I'm feeling like this. And just a simple way of being able to open up to someone is already very helpful for someone. But let's say it goes beyond that, then it's also a good thing to come and maybe seek the professional help that could help you then get out of that funk. And then to come back to your question about about creatives, we also have that false belief that because you're a creative, you're going to be more susceptible to becoming, that crazy person.
Yeah.
But actually, there are studies that show that amongst the creatives, and I'm not only talking about those creatives that are most famous to us, like maybe those ones that we see on stage, but really the field of creatives, there's no more disorders among creatives than others. But it's true that many creatives have that sensitivity that is actually also one of their strengths, in seeing things differently.
I like that. Very sensitive.
You might feel things and then with a higher volume than other people. But I think also just before that, the creative minds are also able to think differently. So diverge from the usual thinking. So it's not just building the house. It's building the house with an architect mind that is going to add that original view, or that sense of, interpretation of the environment and things like that. So that's the creation part. It's not just the building the house, it's the creation part of rendering it. So, but also those creatives are also able to feel things deeply, and many of them, and also they have access to emotions, very deep emotions also. So in the same way they can feel beauty and the sense of aesthetic, they're very sensitive to that, whatever their field is, but also they can also feel very strongly the sense of sadness or anxiety as well.
How can sensitivity be a strength?
It is a strength because it's a way that compared to others, let's say, people can feel things differently and maybe more deeply, and then perceive things differently. If you're able, for example, to see colors in a brighter way, or hear the sounds differently, you're going to be able to make links and connections. And then you're going to be doing things that are going to be a bit different than others. And that's what creativity is, right? You see the same thing, but you're going to be doing or thinking differently.
Yes.
And so creatives, depending on where they're, in which environment they are, sometimes also they face the same stigma because they're different, or they might grow in a family or in a setting where that difference is not appreciated.
Yes. Yeah.
Or it seems like something that is futile, and then maybe that child is going to grow up and feeling a bit, either they have to hide it, or or they don't feel like it's good enough, or so that the need to also prove, and all of that can be attached to how they grew up. So it's not the fact that you're creative, but it's the fact that also how others made you feel for being creative.
Since we're young.
Yeah. But if you're in the setting, for example, if you're growing with a sensitivity to music, but in a family of musicians, actually you're going to be
accepted
and all of that to continue through that craft.
Yeah, I like what you just said, because we tend to look at ourselves where we are right now, and we don't want to look back. We think it's not necessary because we want to focus on moving forward. To your point, it makes it harder for someone to feel accepted from a young age, because you have always lived a different life, and in a society that is a little bit like involved in the growth of everybody, it's hard to explain what you do.
And I think that, as you said, if you're creating it, it really comes from you, and it's like your baby, and then you're putting it out to the world, and with either the pressure, and usually there's a lot of pressure also to succeed, and then somebody comes and tells you, oh, your baby is ugly, or I don't understand your baby, then it's crushing. It can be crushing. And dealing with that in itself, if again you have that background of it was a struggle to put yourself to
get where
you are. It can be something that then comes and also attacks your well-being, your self-worth, your feeling of am I doing what I should be doing? Is it worth it, and things like that. But also to remember that actually creativity is really important. It's really important to have it in the world. It is.
In your experience, how does that feeling of not being accepted or wanting to be accepted to a level that you have in your mind, how does that affect the mental health, and how does that show up as?
When you talked about anxiety, it can come back in the form of anxiety, feeling like you're extremely scared from, when you're creating, you're putting something in this world. You're manifesting something out of thin air almost, and you're going to be facing, or you might think that you're going to be facing people who would want to squash it. So that can in itself, be a source of anxiety, a terrible source of anxiety, because it's also linked to who you are intrinsically. So, but developing a sense of, well-being and acceptance of who you are, in terms of an artist, in terms of the creative, and who you are is also the right that you give yourself to manifest those things, and then try to then reduce the dependency or the fear of being squashed by others. Because in essence, if you've reached that level of being able, you've struggle, and still you continued, and you've reached that level of you still want to do things, create things that matter to you, then actually you're not squashable.
You're stronger than you think. And that's why the podcast is called Imaginate, because you imagine and visualize who you are even when you don't know who you are, because of the inner strength that is inside.
So for that, because coming back to your question is also to be aware, since if the person is also aware of all those emotions, but they can also be aware of, once the emotions become dark, what are the things that they can put in place to kind of protect their energy, put some kind of boundaries to protect themselves also.
I think that's where we need a help from. We are learning as we go. Some of us, a lot of us here, we didn't go to art school, so we learned on the way. It's inspirations that we get from our backgrounds, a mixture of things that are making us do what we're doing. So when you talk about boundaries, that's like another concept that we don't understand, that where we need to learn from. How do you share your vulnerability with people, and where are those boundaries? But what does that mean?
I see. Okay. I don't know. We can invent an example.
I like that. Let's invent an example. Yeah.
I don't know what kind of a field. Which field would you like to take?
I think music.
Music.
Music is very vulnerable.
Okay. Yes, it is. So let's say someone creates a piece of music and it's very dear to their heart, and they're now also willing and able to share it with a larger crowd.
Yeah.
But they know that. So, I'm sorry, I don't know exactly all the different steps of the music, but I'm going to try to make a parallel with someone, for example, who would expose a painting.
Yeah.
But at one point, if they share that music with people, and maybe they know that they feel extremely sensitive to, even if the feedback is good, maybe they still feel extremely sensitive. They don't want to mingle too much with that crowd, and they feel like it's draining them.
Yeah.
That's part of recognizing, what is it that takes your energy away?
Yeah.
And then what are the boundaries that you can put so that, for example, you don't need to stay the entire night or with those people. You can decide, okay, I have a battery life of maybe an hour or 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And after that, I go to my safe space.
Yeah. I like that you're helping us understand the boundaries, but I think the first one should come from the inside.
Absolutely.
Which is, how do I feel when people tell me about what I've created?
Yes.
Is this something that therapy can help?
Yes, because therapy explores with you what works for you. Because something that will work for you won't work for somebody else. So it's also, and sometimes you don't know what works for you. So it's really going together and exploring. So what works for you? What is it that makes you feel safe?
Yeah.
And then you can start thinking and discussing and then trying it.
Yeah.
And then coming back and then trying something else if you need to try something else.
Yeah.
But to be, first of all, aware, what is it that makes me feel safe, comfortable? What is it that doesn't make me feel safe or makes me feel uncomfortable? Already that awareness is really key, so that, okay, what is it that I can do so that I can put more of that feeling of safety and feeling comfortable without the things that we talk about when we talk about self-medication. Self-medication is another way of saying, for example, without self-medication. So it's also, you might say, okay, if I take a shot or two, or this will help me ease my anxiety, but that's a coping mechanism that is in the end also not helpful for you. Yeah. And maybe this is where also it's associated with mental health issues with creatives, is when the coping mechanism is in the end can be hurtful or harmful to the person. Yeah,
we have examples of like the biggest musicians who died of overdose.
Exactly.
And who have struggled with addictions and using substances.
Yes. And then maybe who were under a lot of pressure to perform under very difficult circumstances.
Yeah.
If you have to perform every night and then afterwards also give interviews, I don't know. Yeah. Extreme pressure, and then you also have, as you said, that double stigma of not wanting to go and ask for professional help, or even make that time for yourself to kind of make that space that is feeling comfortable for you. Or if you have managers that don't care and that put you under that pressure, that all of those things are things that can contribute to a mental well-being that becomes very low. It's not the fact that you're creative. It's all the other things that are around.
So I like that you have given me perspective that it's not about being a creative. It's about the environment.
It could be that.
It could be that.
It's one of the things. So it can be correlated, but it's not the cause. The fact that you're creative is not the cause that you're going to be.
Because for me, all the research that I've done about artists who have been around for a long, long time, there was something that I've been always struggling with.
Yeah.
And it's easy to conclude that this is because of the art. Art gets you. It's also like it's more of a mindset that we have, that I have, where I have observed people from musicians like Jimi Hendrix to Whitney Houston to Dali to all the biggest painters to everybody. They most people that I've seen, they have something they're struggling with, and it made me curious to know what is going on.
And all those ones that you've shared are also those people who had a lot of pressure, I think.
Yeah.
And then maybe I don't know. Yeah.
I think the pressure, it's hard to not have the pressure because you know that you have to be working, you have to be doing things, you have to be creating because you're creative. And that's a pressure in itself because you want your today's work to be better than yesterday's work. That's one pressure. Then there's another pressure where you want your things to be received, to be seen. You want to share with the world what you are making. That's also another pressure. So I think the pressure is there, and it's important that we talk about this to psychologists and therapists to understand how to deal with it.
Yeah.
Because I think the pressure is going to be there. What do you think?
I think it is going to be there. But I think now we know, for example, in sports, there also is that pressure to succeed, right? But now there also is that acknowledgement that mental health is really key.
Yeah.
And one of the things is also how do you handle with the pressure to succeed? Because the more you feel you can handle it, or you're in French they say apprivoiser, you become more comfortable. You understand, where it comes from, but also you can kind of become, I wouldn't say become friends, but this one in that sense. Then you're able to perform in a sense of flow that is not seeing the pressure as like the thing that is there to kind of like that negative voice, that critical voice that is in your head, because that critical voice is not helpful. How can you make sure that you understand where the critical voice is coming from, and then also give you more space to create and be in your flow and be in that happy space and comfortable place.
I like that you're speaking the language I understand.
Okay.
How do you think therapy can help us deal with our critical voice?
Yes. We deal with critical voices all the time.
Yeah.
Even beyond creatives.
Yeah.
Yeah. Usually we have a set of critical voice that comes and takes like the huge space in our mind, and that's why people come most of the time.
That example of a critical voice is something we can all relate to. So I think understanding that therapy, sharing, they're not just therapy only, but there are other tools that can help us deal with that will be helpful. So is there tools that you have that you can share with us to help us cope with it?
What we'll do in therapy is we'll work with you, and then if there is that critical voice, or through talk therapy, there are different ways of going about it, but one of the ways would be to try to understand when it appeared. When is it that it first appeared for you? And then usually sometimes it can be linked to a specific period of time.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you were still young, and you would hear that voice from a specific person or a group of person, and then you internalize it, and you think that it's true, and it accompanies you as you grow. So the critical voice is there to kind of push you as if it's helping you, because it wants you to succeed, but it is also very harsh.
Very hard.
If you're not succeeding the way that voice that came from other sources were giving you those doubts and questions. Really, do you think all of that? So it's to recognize where it came from, and then to work on seeing how to give it less power, and give yourself more power. Give that child that you were at that time, that believed and that thought it was fun to do, and that really didn't care about being the number one, but just cared about doing the thing that they love to do.
Wow, I like that.
how do you give that thing more space? It's not always easy. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it takes more time. But other ways would be to talk amongst creatives from the same field. I'm sure many go through the same doubts and questions.
Yeah.
And there are people who have gone and carved ways that were helpful, that they can also share with you. But also maybe just being among other people who understand the struggle can also be helpful.
The craziest thing about that voice, you feel like you're the only one going through it. You feel like no one else is struggling like I'm struggling. Everybody has it. They have it figured out.
Yes.
It's just me who's slow.
Yes.
And that makes it harder to even move on, because you're thinking, what's wrong with me? Why don't I get this? So I like that there is tools that we have to be acquainted with, because therapy is something that is growing on us right now, and a lot of creatives are struggling in many areas. They're succeeding and they're struggling. It's like going together. The more you succeed, the more you feel like I might lose it all. The more you succeed or you do something, you're like, I don't think it's good enough. So that voice in your head is always there and it grows with you. So today you're dealing with something, it feels like you have overcome it. The next day it comes back stronger and bringing more questions than last time. Mental health is like the key to a good life. Why is there so much stigma around it?
I think the first thing that we said, it might be linked to craziness. There might be a conception where there's no in between. So either you're good, right? You're good and well functioning, and that is what is considered everything's going well for you, or you're crazy, but there's no in between. Or what is in between can be seen as a sign of weakness. That's the stigma. Sign of weakness, laziness, depression is often mistaken for a form of laziness, when in fact we know, even when we take brain scans, we can see the brain activity of a depressed person is really different. It's kind of like, it's almost like the light is turned off. You have the brain activity of a normal person, you see all the activity within, on the brain, but the rest, on a depressed person, really severely depressed, so there's not no activity, but the activity is less, and that can be also translated with a reduced appetite for life, a reduced interest in things. And so, and then people see that person lying in bed and they think, they're just lazy, you should just get up. But you can't just snap out of depression. And it's actually something for which it's important to go and seek professional help, because depression comes with a sense of hopelessness and a feeling that you're not worthy enough, or that you're a burden, and it sometimes can lead to acts of suicide.
So there are names that we hear, like depression, but we don't know what it is.
All right, let me try to explain.
Please explain to us.
Okay. Depression is there are many signs that can come, but it's usually attached to a form of sadness, a form of hopelessness in the future. So you feel like there's no hope. You feel like you're sad all the time. You feel like your energy level is going down. You feel like you don't want to interact with people, and then it continues. It drags on, and if you don't do anything, then it can really continue down. And depression can be caused by many things. It can be caused by a traumatic event for you. For example, you lose a loved one, or something happens to you. For example, you become sick, and maybe it changes your whole future, or the way you had seen your future, and you think like, there's no hope for me. Why should I still be around? Or something like that. Something that comes and shakes your belief, your hope, your ability to attach to life, and it can happen to anyone. It can happen to older people. It can happen to younger people, even children, and married, non-married, religious, non-religious, rich, poor. That's why you can see someone who has everything and still feel hopeless and commit suicide. Having everything doesn't mean you're happy inside. There's a need, different type of needs that you still need that anybody needs, needing to belong, needing to feel understood, to feel seen, needing to feel like you're valued, to matter. There are different needs, and if you don't feel like you belong, or you feel like nobody cares about you, or those core needs that you feel like are important to you, and then it can come and affect you deeply. So that's for depression. And then for anxiety, it's not about the hopelessness. It's about a fear in the future, like something that you're afraid would happen in the future. A healthy dose of fear is useful, right? If you think about the future and you say, okay, if I want to do this, and by the end of the year or in 5 years, how do I make sure that I do it? But if you start worrying constantly, then it becomes detrimental to you. And that fear becomes loud. Again, the critical voice, the fear also becomes louder than anything else, and then stops helping you doing things, but actually freezes you into a specific thing, and is not helpful. So it's about also going about how to understand where that fear comes from, and helping you through different techniques, maybe sometimes breathing exercises, grounding exercises, maybe different routine, so that you can put your mind and heart at peace. And if you feel like that anxiety is coming, what are the things that you can physically do so that it calms your heartbeat, it calms your...
So the options are...
Their breathing exercises are really good. Meditation, if you can. Sports can be really good. But in all of these things, also being able to make sure that you're able to sleep. Sleep is important, really important. And
many creatives don't get 8 hours. Yeah, because you want to create during the night. Some of them, not all of them. Some of them want to create during the night, and by the time you're going to bed, other people are waking up, and you want to be part of the society. So it affects the sleep. So sleep is important.
It is, and some creatives might think that they need that lack of sleep, or they need that tension to create. But I would say maybe I would challenge them and say, try maybe a different way, and maybe you'd see that the creativity is in you, and it's not really, it could not be dependent of you just being
awake. Yeah.
Maybe what you need is a calm space, or disconnected from others. Maybe that's what you really crave. That's what the night brings to you.
From the conversation we're having, I think self-awareness is key. It feels like everything is tailored to the person. How do we gain the self-awareness? What does it come with? It comes with time. Is there a way to pursue self-awareness, or we just need to listen to ourselves more?
I think there are different ways. I think there's so many resources that are now available online. You can just Google things. If you're curious, you can listen to podcasts about that. I think also related to emotions, I think one of the stigma that is related to emotion is that if you listen to your emotions, you're being, specifically in this culture, you're being not selfish, but you're listening to yourself too much. Basically, you're just self-absorbed. Yes, you're very self-absorbed.
Yeah.
But when you think about it, emotions, whenever you have it, if it's a positive emotion or if it's a negative emotion, it gives you a very key set of information and data about a need that has either been fulfilled or not. So let's say, for example, you feel sad. I don't know, you feel sad about, I don't know, whatever what happening. And usually there are core needs, for example, and you can associate it. I can give you a link to, that you can share afterwards. But core needs that, for example, sad, and you're in a setting, social setting, and you feel uncomfortable. Maybe you feel like you're not connecting to people, and the need to belong or the need to be seen or understood is not fulfilled. That sadness in itself, if you numb yourself to it, then you lose an important piece of information about what is the need that you really crave, and what is it that is not happening for you, so that you can then think about ways to get a solution for that. Or on the contrary, if you have a very positive experience somewhere, try to think about, why is it that I'm having a positive experience? What is it that is being fulfilled here? And how can I increase those type of experience for myself? So being aware and attuned to your emotion is not being self-absorbed. It's actually giving you a lot of information to how you are. And the more you're also aware on your own emotions, you're going also to be aware about other people. If you're numb to your emotion, I'm going to guarantee you're going to be numb to other people's emotions. And that is very true when you're going about it with children. If you're not able to connect with your own emotion, you won't be understanding what the children around you are going through, because you're going to think, they're being capricious, those children, when in fact they're going through very dramatic things themselves. And you might think that these are really trivial things, but for example, if you take a teddy bear away from a child, I like to give that example. For you, it's just a teddy bear, it's just a thing, lifeless thing, but it's the world, and
it's everything.
And the sense of protection and belong and identity. And so you need to be in tune with that. If you're not, then you lose a lot of information as well.
Yeah, I like that. That's really nice. To break it down, I think it's be present in the moment and listen to your emotions. And do you respond to your emotions? Or because sometimes you might be aware of the emotion and also judge it harshly. Like you are aware that you are a shy person. You're aware that you don't like groups of people, but then you judge it harshly. You just like, what's wrong with you? Like, why you are aware, but that awareness is not well received. Is there something that is useful to prepare yourself to accept and be kind to yourself? Allow yourself to move into change.
I think maybe one way would also to be kind to that voice that is critical to you, or the voice that is like, as you do, what is it that you're doing? And kind of questioning why that voice is there. Maybe it's there because it actually wants you to go and be among those people. So it maybe wants your the best interest for you, but it doesn't know how to help you with that. It's using a voice that is actually giving you more. So understanding that maybe that voice, not to be judgmental towards that voice too, but to kind of understand that voice, where it comes from. Maybe that voice wants you to do better, but it doesn't know how to best give you that strength or that confidence. But if that voice would tell you, you know what, you're great. You're doing great. No problem if you don't want to speak, you're great. Just the simple fact that you're there, enjoy the scenery, you're going to feel better. You're going to feel better, more at ease, more comfortable, and maybe you're going to start speaking to others. So so adopting that kind voice towards that critical voice, and maybe try to give you also another voice towards yourself. I'm shy, and I'm here, I'm enjoying myself, I know who I am, I know that I matter. Have another voice also there, kind voice.
So what is creativity to you?
To me, creativity is very much linked to a different way of thinking and connecting dots, and with that new connection of dots, coming up with a new combination and then bring it, forward. And we talked about creativity amongst artists, but for example, I think whenever the person is a bit different, they are going to bring a creative voice on the platform if we let them. If we have, for example, people coming from other countries, they will have a different set of, understanding and things. If you have a group of all men, but you're going to include women, you're going to have a different way of thinking problems and bringing solutions. So creativity to me comes from a different set of understanding, and also, of course, a different set of understanding can come with that great sensitivity that you can have. And also, I think one of the reasons why also it can sometimes be linked with mental health is that different set of thinking can also be linked with some conditions like schizophrenia, like ADHD, these are people who are going to be thinking very differently than the norm, and they're also come with different answers that we might not have thought of, and we thought, oh my God, this is really good. Why not try this too? So I think that creativity is an eloge of being the beauty of being different. Mm-hmm.
What's your favorite medium of expressing yourself?
That's a good question. I like aligning or how do you say, associating ideas from different sources. I really like different point of views. So I like if I have a problem, I like understanding it from this point of view, from an older person point of view, from a child's point of view, from a builder, from this, and then all that is going to create a mosaic of understanding that to me is going to create something else. But I also like other things. I like drawing. I like
drawing.
Yeah, I do.
You gave an example of a painter.
Mm-hmm.
Do you paint?
I don't paint. I draw.
You draw.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What else?
What else?
You dance?
Not creative.
Well, actually, creative. It's so creative.
So creative. It's so not. Like it should be. So it's very creative. Yes. I guess. Yes. Mm-hmm.
That's good. I have questions that I received from an Instagram post I did. One of the questions that stood out for me is from Criso. He's a music producer.
Okay.
He is asking, how does one break out of a burnout without stopping to work?
Okay, that's a good one. Yeah, let me go back to the definition of burnout then.
Mm-hmm.
Burnout is when you give yourself selfishly, actually, to the point that you're burning out all your resources. And you're dealing with a constant sense of stress, meeting deadlines, and then continuously. So it's not, on the year, you have maybe 3 peaks on the year, over the year, and you know that it's going to, you're going to deal with those peaks, and then afterwards, it's going to be calm. It's like constant.
Constantly.
And that constance it's going to really burn you out, to really deplete you of the energy. So even in other fields, when there's a company that constantly demands of their employees to perform, at one point, it's not sustainable. And it's not sustainable also to just give them a month off. If when they come back, they're in that same rhythm of just running. It has to be, so the answer to burnout, it has to be a systemic answer. It's not a punctual answer. It has to be about how to create a rhythm or that is sustainable for you. And really to say, again, setting boundaries. I can't. This is what I can do. Beyond that, it's, superhuman. And because if you do cross that boundary at one point, those headaches might come, insomnia might come, those kind of things, the physical ailment, but also a sense of mental fatigue, starting to feel demotivated, losing that passion that you initially had for the field because you're too exhausted, and also feeling like can't catch up. It's always there. So to make sure that you don't reach that extreme point, find a way to review that system and to make sure that you're not exhausting yourself. Is it that you're going to work with more collaborators? Is it that you're going to tell clients, no at one point? Because if not, then I won't be able to. I'm going to push myself to become sick.
Yeah.
And that's not what you want.
So boundaries.
Yeah, the boundaries, and then being able to say, no, I can't. That beyond this, I can't.
So you don't stop working, but you manage your work.
You manage but you mean you can, for example, if you say that you're dealing with 10 things in a day, maybe to say, what is manageable for me is 3.
Yeah.
Or maybe I need to first stop and rest, and then after that, I need to make sure that it's only 3 that I handle, and I handle it well.
Yeah.
Not only for the clients, but also for myself. I take care of myself.
Yes.
Because if not, then I burn out. And then burning out, maybe you think that you can go forever, but at one point there's a limit.
Yeah. So what do we do when we're burnt out? Practical things to do.
When you're burnt out, eat well, sleep enough, do things that make you happy. Take care of yourself. Understand what brought you there, and do things that bring you some form of energy. And then part of the recovery will also be understanding what needs to be put in place so that you don't get burned out again.
Take care of yourself, which is also a foreign idea, because how do you take care of yourself? Because that work, you're doing it because you love it. Your heart is there, and it feels like it's you. So you feel like when you take care of the work, you're taking care of yourself. But I think it would be nice if you draw a line between work and self for us, in terms of because for creatives it's like it's attached, like you are your work. Even when you try, you feel like this is me. You always attach it to yourself until you move on to something else. So how do we separate what we are creating and who we are? Or do we even have to do that? Do we have to separate it?
So now we're talking about taking care of yourself, right?
Yes.
Once you start feeling overwhelmed, then pay attention to that. What is it that is happening for you that it makes you feel overwhelmed? This is what I mean by taking care of yourself. When we talk about work-life balance, we can't just say about 8 hours this and 5 hours there. It depends really on where you are in your life. If for example you have that energy and you don't want to do anything else, and for you this is your rhythm and you feel good, then it's fine. But if you feel like at one point there's something that's draining, listen to that voice, and before it becomes louder and before it stops you completely on your track, what is it that is happening for you that needs a bit more attention? So that's what I mean by taking care of yourself. If, for example, you fell down here on the road and then you were bleeding, you wouldn't just continue walking. You would stop. You would take care of your bleed and your pain, and then see if you need to rest. Pause. You won't continue jogging.
Yes.
This is what I mean. But if you say, I'm just going to continue jogging even if I broke my leg, it's not good for you.
You fall down.
Take care of yourself.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with taking care. Actually, this is the right thing to do. Take care of yourself. And if you see somebody else that fell down, help them take care of themselves too.
Yeah. I feel like there's a lot that they not ask, and there's so much wisdom that can come out of you. So I would like you to take some time and share something with us.
I think this is a good platform of discussion. I like the idea of this is also part of a creation, I guess. This is what you wanted. It's different connections and then building something different,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, definitely.
And that's nice, I think. Yeah, I was thinking of a quote that is quoted many times. It's by Einstein that says that creativity is when intelligence is having fun.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
So let's have fun.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time. I'm so grateful. And how can people find you? How can people who are struggling or who want to learn more and find you?
Okay, so this mental health clinic called Solid Minds, you can find it online. And we're here based in Kigali. All the information is there, solidminds.rw. And you can see our team, what we do, different services. There's a contact information that you can also call. I know there are other centers here in Kigali. What's really also inspiring is that you see more and more well-being specialists that are also coming to Rwanda and that are also now daring to open, back in the days when they opened Solid Minds, I think people were saying, but really, will people come? Are people really? But yes, there's that demand, but also, there's, yoga practice, there's other different of well-being practices. I urge you to go and look out in Kigali. Those practices are there. The same way that there are creatives, there are also creatives in mental health and mental well-being.
Yes.
And so
That's why I invited you, because you're creative in that field.
Something.
Yes, please. Yes.
I just realized something, that also creativity is also part of, a healing process.
Yeah.
We also use creativity to heal.
Yeah.
And there are people who are able to, they go through something very difficult, and through the process of creation, they're healing themselves. But also through therapy, there are different creative tools that we might be using. People are using writing or paint therapy or just, those role plays. These are all art forms that we know also are helpful because they create and they transform. You create and you transform something, and you get a sense of agency. You're no longer powerless. You get a sense of agency, and you're able to see things differently. So that creativity also is a very powerful tool of healing.
Creativity is a powerful tool of healing. Well, hopefully that more creatives will come to see you and you provide your insight. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you for your time again. I hope those who are watching and listening on Spotify or on YouTube, that you have gained some insights to help you become a good creative, have peace inside, and create from love and rest, and that you are inspired. And thank you so much.
You too.
Have a great evening. Thank you.
Thank you.